her behavior here is a symptom of the normalization of fascist ideas. One of the foundational values of capitalism is the idea that health is a choice. Cardi B, what the heck? We're going to start by talking about a quick gossip story, celebrity story that has deeper implications, and we're going to use that to pivot into a short conversation about why those implications are really important to you. Yes, you. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how much money you make. Well, I kind of care about that one. But generally, across many different income brackets, let's say, this affects you. We're going to talk about fat phobia because here's what Cardi B said. I'm also unplugged from the Cardi B album thing, but apparently it's been mired in controversy after she's had this live stream where she's fat shamed her fans. Now, she's done it under the guise of just playfully joking with her fans, and you'll see the kind of defense tactic that she uses. But like we said earlier, it's a lot deeper than Cardi B. The 32-year-old rapper earlier this month joked about how quickly her 3XL t-shirts sold out, but her choice of words upset many fans. What I wanted to tell y'all is that we really underestimated the box sets. So the box sets are completely sold out, especially because you fat fucks. Clearly you guys are fat as fuck. No Chick-fil-A for y'all. The 3XL sold out like in 20 minutes, she said. And then she continued to say, now I know my fans is fat. I can't even make fun of fat people no more. Don't call me fat phobic, y'all, because everyone made fun of my BBL, so don't. I can body shame people because y'all body shame me. If y'all body shame me, I can body shame y'all. That was her retort. It's an interesting defense. I'm not sure if it holds up in court. I'm not sure if it really makes that much sense. Sometimes parasocial relationships can be so tricky so as to decontextualize to public figures who make a lot of money by being public figures the fact that they have positions of great power and privilege, and put them in a position where they're talking to people like they're talking to some random person in private. And this is not that. The messages that you broadcast have significance. Now, when we have conversations about fat phobia, watch how I'm untangling the thread. Watch how I'm untangling the thread. We often think about it in the context of people who are fat shamed, right? People who are considered fat and the fat phobia that they face. But what if I told you that this was actually a fascism problem? What if I told you that this was actually a eugenics problem? And it's not Cardi B as the sole perpetrator. It's not her harnessing all of the dark evil forces in the universe to commit acts of terrorism online at people. But in fact, her behavior here is a symptom of the normalization of fascist ideas. And that is something that we've been tackling in multiple conversations. You'll probably remember that we've just talked about Sydney Sweeney fairly recently, and the very fashy Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad where she talked about her genes, etc., etc. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Well, in that conversation, we were talking about this normalization of fascism. And fat phobia is something that really goes a lot farther back than just the Trumpian fascist era. It's something that we normalized from time. It's something that people have looked at as this necessary evil for a long time. And folks like, Foreign Man in a Foreign Land, my good friend, have covered it extensively, the connections that fat phobia has with anti-blackness. But it's also a reflection of people's bodies reflecting their value, and in particular, their bodies appearing certain ways that the society deems as good or bad, which thus lead to their valuation as worthy or unworthy. Again, this is not a Cardi B problem. This is not about Cardi B being the spawn of Satan. The truth is, though, she shouldn't have said that shit. It's just not cool. It's actually really harmful. And people pushed back against her, including a rapper named Samira. And her response to it was not very good. I'll use Samira's Instagram post to sort of summate events, but you can check all this stuff out for yourself on your own, and I encourage you to do so if you're interested in this story. So Samira wrote, when I spoke about Cardi B's fatphobic comments, I did so respectfully with the hope of encouraging her to think about the impact of her words on her plus size fans. So yeah, she made a response video of it, breaking down why that wasn't cool. Her choice, Cardi's choice, to respond by telling me to shut the fuck up and to call my pussy was vulgar, dismissive, and escalated the issue entirely. I am no stranger to fatphobic harassment in my comments and DMs, but Cardi B's direct comments toward me have encouraged a new level. By speaking to me in that way publicly, she once again signaled to millions of people that this kind of language and violence towards fat women is acceptable. I still stand by everything I said in my video, especially her being talented and powerful. I truly do wish the best for her. Right? And then she said that she'll step back from posting while she focuses on her mental health. So I encourage you to check out Samyra's video on her Instagram. That's Samyra. I'm not going to get into so much detail about it because I do want to be succinct, but you saw the summary of the events. She was among many other people, but in particular a public-facing voice who responded with backlash to Cardi B's comments, and Cardi B was nasty toward her as a response. And Cardi B has these justifications. You know, people body shame me, so I should body shame other people. It's a very survival of the fittest mentality, isn't it? Or, well, people are just oversensitive. Classic response to jokes. But one thing that we should have learned since a long time ago, given the state of how things are right now, is that jokes are not just jokes. Jokes do have meaning. Jokes do have impact, especially when those jokes are public jokes, when those jokes are expressed publicly by public figures with large audiences, with large platforms. And I want to get to some content here from some amazing creators, including my Crutches and Spice on TikTok, who I thoroughly recommend you all check out, to break down just where these jokes come from and how it relates to the current state of political economy in a lot of ways.
Everything going on with Samyra and Cardi B are kind of remind me just how easy it is to thrust people down the alt-right pipeline. And before everybody's like, no, it's an internet conversation. The entirety of the alt-right pipeline as it is was just internet discourse until it was weaponized. That's all it was. It is very easy to weaponize things like health, fat phobia, ableism, because all these conversations are all laden with the exact same aspects, and then shifted into xenophobia, racism, because while people think that they're having surface level conversations about pop culture and internet discourse, things like fat phobia have roots in ableism and anti-blackness. And if you look at Samyra's comment sections about how she should just lose weight and just lay off the A, B, or C, that is the exact same justification currently being used to reduce people's access to things like Medicaid, food stamps, restricting what people can have on food stamps like sodas and dyed foods. And that's why it's not hard for the right to turn culture wars into actual policy, because a majority of people just below the surface agree with a lot of it. But also, it has helped the alt-right create a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial fascist cohort, utilizing all these same tools. Because particularly in America, racial groups, ethnic groups, they all have their culturally translated version of the exact same body politic. And as always, it's no mistake that this discourse is happening, quote unquote, after the pandemic.
So, really important breakdown by Crutches and Spice. And I know that people are seeing the precise linkages between the rhetoric she's talking about, this idea of what Cardi B said, you gotta stop eating Chick-fil-A, these ideas of if you're fat, just lose weight, stop eating so much, eat better, be healthy, whatever. You can see how that directly correlates with policy initiatives and fascist eugenics that says people who do not meet a certain health criteria should not be met with access to health care. They should not be treated. They should not be helped because they are a drain, right? A drain on resources, a drain on the public. That is the root of eugenics. That is what we saw in Nazi Germany. And that is what we are seeing pop up now and then, more and more, when it comes to even things like the Sydney Sweeney campaign. Now, one of the things that I saw as a primary response to that Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad were comments that were like, what's the big deal? Obviously, she's got great genes, right? Taking that idea for granted. And let's put aside the sort of weirdness of talking about how great a person's genes are when you really think about it. Let's put aside the fact that white people with blue eyes who are blonde, who look a certain way, are at the forefront of what eugenics policies do in the West, which is to say, create the foremost type which all people must try to follow. It's also weird in the sense that it's an assumption. And it's an assumption based on what exactly, right? You know, I've seen people talk about the genetics of athletes, and as weird as even those conversations are, and as much as I will happily talk about the fascism that has run rampant in sports and sports industries over the past decades, one day I'll make a video essay about that. At least you can kind of get why a person who can jump really high and run really fast might be looked at like, oh wow, this guy's got great genes. Cause like, that's wow, that's such a crazy thing, that's such an amazing thing, whatever. Still doesn't make any sense, still doesn't really justify that rhetoric, still is something we have to avoid. But at least there's some sort of tangible measurement you can look at to say, well, in competition, XYZ, when it comes to a person's appearance, health cannot be understood very well at all by their appearance. And moreover, health is no reason to value somebody less than someone else. So if somebody is not blonde, not skinny, not blue-eyed, not hot like Sydney Sweeney, it doesn't really make sense that therefore we should accept that they have worse genes than her. But we do this, and that's the sort of wild part about that American Eagle ad, is because it rests on an assumption. It rests on an assumption that we are going to assume that that's the case because we've been taught to assume that's the case. And how do we know we've been taught to assume that's the case? Because this is how we joke. These are the jokes that we tell each other. These are the ways that we make fun of each other. In particular, making fun of people's hair types, making fun of people's skin color when it comes to colorism, making fun of people's bodies. Fascism doesn't care about science. Eugenics is pseudoscience. It exists for the purpose of creating hierarchies and then justifying violence committed at each rung of that hierarchy. The lower you go, the more violence you face. We can get a bit into that idea about fat and health just for, posterity's sake, because a lot of people had insight about that, right? I will actually play you this take first. Another really good one from Crunches and Spice.
This comment reads, was waiting for your take because everyone's missing the ableist aspect of fat phobia. Yep. A lot of the pushback against Samara is that, oh, she's not doing anything to lose weight. She's just complaining. She wants to stay fat and still have accommodations, to still be accommodated. What are accommodations? A lot of non-fat people, thinner people,
accommodations,
believe that fat people are fat because they're eating their way into a functional disability throughout society that then needs to be accommodated, which leads people to believe that fatness and any disability that is associated with fatness is a choice. That's the very reason why they're taking away food stamps, taking away Medicaid, taking away all those things. Because in America, everybody believes that health is a choice, which is ironic. 6 years into a pandemic now. But I digress. People think that Samara is demanding accommodations for her fatness, aka a disability that she chose for herself, and that accommodations shouldn't go towards her. There's much more important things. Mind you, disabled people don't even get accommodations 9 times out of 10. A lot of the time, disabled people are not being accommodated either. And a majority of the things that fat people and disabled people are fighting for are the exact same things. But none of these people care about either of those things, even though they would benefit literally everybody.
So again, 10 out of 10 take, right? And take a look at some of these comments. I was 250 pounds with debilitating back pain. I am 135 pounds with debilitating back pain. My doctors went from try losing weight to maybe it's stress. This is a terrible system, right? Listen to people's stories. I gained 45 pounds within the span of several weeks because of the meds I was taking for chemo. Once I stopped taking them, I lost 20 pounds, but I'm now scarred with huge stretch marks all over my body, all the way down to my elbows and knees, and not just my stomach. People look at me real funny still. I have a disability that causes me to gain weight. Many such cases, by the way. I am very fat. Whether it's fatness or a disability, people treat it like a choice you must be punished for. Someone who came in early in the stream was like, why the heck are we letting commie discourse turn into discourse about fat phobia? Why does it always devolve into these conversations as if this conversation just should be purely looked at as like a silly moral conversation, something that is not at the level of talking about political economy? But this is political economy. One of the foundational values of capitalism is the idea that health is a choice. I'm going to direct you to a book here called Health Communism by Beatrice, Adler, Bolton, and Artie Vierkant, which delves into this. And we're actually going to look at a couple of quotes from Beatrice, Adler, Bolton to close. But this is what it is. Health is a choice. First of all, health is this sort of value-neutral, objective reality, okay? So if you're somebody who is slim and maybe even has toned muscles, but you have chronic illnesses, then you are healthier than somebody who is overweight, who is fat, who doesn't have chronic illnesses, and has no trouble with major life functions, who is healthier than somebody who is skinny and is like, do you understand that everybody has different health conditions? And do you understand how little control we have over them? Yes, there are different mitigating factors that we can try to alter to keep ourselves as healthy as we can. But we've been sold this idea that in order to be healthy, we simply have to claim healthiness for ourselves. We simply have to work to achieve health. We simply have to create health for ourselves. It's something you go on the marketplace and get. Just like a bag of fries, just like an iPhone, you get health. So what do? You get your Apple Watch, you get your correct running sneakers, you get your, what else do you get? Compression shorts, you get your personal trainer, you get your gym membership. You do all these things. Why? Because health is your choice. So you must choose to be healthy. And yet, is health really a choice 90% of the time if you cannot choose your genetics? And moreover, disability and disease happen by all types of all types of factors out of your control. Do you really have a responsibility to your own health? Or do we collectively have a responsibility to our own health? Is health really something that you can commoditize? Or is health a reflection of larger issues? Is health really something you can individualize as being a quality or a possession of a particular person? Or is health something that is cultivated by the collective? Think about how you get autoimmune disorders. You grow up in an abusive household. You grow up in a disorganized, disordered household. You experience trauma early on. Your body processes that with unhealthy coping mechanisms. And those create autoimmune disorders down the line if untreated, which it is fascinatingly difficult to treat when you are stuck in the throes of capitalism, working as hard as you can to make money. Health is not a choice. It is not a commodity. Health is a concept that has been created and engineered by capitalism as, instead of a reflection of symbiotic living, a reflection of collectives, a reflection of environments, as instead a possession, as instead a metric by which you measure yourself as better than others or worse. Avian Gillig says, "May I also add that losing weight can be hard because of other health treatments. I'm on tea and it's much harder now to lose fat. Without tea though, I'd be suicidal." Akumatsu says, "I feel like it should be obvious, no? If capitalism hinges on feeding the working class that their exploitation is the result of their choices alone, then it only follow with health too." That's the thing. What does capitalism measure as value? Profit. How does capitalism create profit? By making more efficient the conditions of production, getting as much work as possible, and having that work produce as efficiently as possible. These are all things discussed in everybody's favorite book, Capital Volume 1 by Karl Marx. So health was created in this realm, in this political economy, as a concept, a winner-takes-all competition between people to judge each other and to compete with each other to get jobs. I don't know why, I don't know if I should say this or if I need to say this, but I will say it is your personal choice to do whatever you want to do in order to keep yourself as healthy as possible. I try to exercise regularly. I try to stretch regularly. I try to physical therapize myself regularly because I have some biomechanical habits I got to change. I adjusted my diet significantly. I try to have a big breakfast in the morning. I try to stay hydrated. I always try to eat as much fruits and vegetables as I can. The whole works. And yes, I would encourage that people do what they can. But you can't actually get healthier if you don't also accept how much is out of your control. You can't actually go on a weight loss journey, let's say, if you don't also accept that, for one, weight is not a reliable measurement of somebody's health, especially compared to other measurements that we have that you get from things like your labs and your lived experience. But moreover, two, that there's a lot of reasons you might not be able to lose weight. Do you know how many people have gone through so many arduous journeys trying to lose weight just to find out, oh shit, I got PCOS. Just to find out, oh, I have a disability. I have a stress disorder. It's just genetic. You know how many people have gone through that? And so I just don't understand, like, people have to be a little bit more cognizant, not only for the sake of trying to be respectful of others or trying to be nice to other people. That's not what this is about. It's for your sake. This is why I said at the beginning, this is not about Cardi B. This is not just merely about fat or fat phobia. This is about you. Fat phobia is about you. Eugenics is about you. First of all, again, from that pure standpoint of like, oh, so you want to go on a health journey. You want to go on a weight loss journey. You want to take care of your own health. Okay, you're going to do a bad job of that, especially relative to others. There's a frog here who wants to join me. You're going to do a bad job of that, especially when compared to others, if you don't recognize how much of that is out of your control, and if you don't recognize the effect of environment. It doesn't matter how much you beat yourself up mentally, how many YouTube videos you watch, how much gear you buy. If you live in a household that makes you chronically fatigued, that makes you chronically upset, that puts your body through all types of autoimmune problems, you're probably not going to lose that weight. And if you do, you're probably going to lose it in an unhealthy way, because the health wasn't just about how you looked. The health was about how you felt. And you feel bad for various reasons that have nothing to do with how many ladders you climb, how many push-ups you do. And it's so funny, but it's also not funny at all. Because every time you break this down to people, they just default back to the same talking point. Well, but people should lose weight though. Why do you feel the need to say that, right? Because we could say that about various health conditions or health qualities, bodily qualities. People should lift weights. It's good for your bones. It's good for your heart. I can hold two ideas in my head at once. I can draw lines and say, hey, it's a good idea if you want to lift weights. If you got the situation set up, if you want to do that, go for it. You'll see some benefits from it in terms of your heart rate, etc., etc. I can also say, you're not a freak if you don't do it. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't do it. And you're not going to get healthy necessarily by doing it. Do you know how many people are jacked and unhealthy? You know it. You've seen them. You've seen the people who have done significant damage to their body in the name of weightlifting, in the name of achieving certain physical features, physical, visual qualities, because they want to get lean, because they want to have that perfect show body instead of having a body that they actually enjoy living in, instead of having a body that is actually properly responding to needs, properly rested, properly taken care of. So it's such a bizarre thing, but you know why people keep defaulting back to it? Because fundamentally, if we were to accept the idea that health is not a choice, it would put a lot of people in a mental crisis. That's just the reality. Anybody who wants to comment on this video later when I upload it and say, you're just making excuses for fat people, I think you're just coping. It's just cope. And I do agree with Deanna that we do as a collective need to work on providing neutral and informative nutrition information. And that's actually something that I want to work on. And that's actually something I want to incorporate into a future video essay. So stay on the lookout for that. I actually will have an announcement about that soon. But part of that is also recognizing that it's not about achieving a look. It's not about putting yourself on some sort of journey. It's about knowing and doing what you can. If we organized in such a way that people are doing what they can, we would at least have an understanding of what could be addressed that is properly based off of whose needs aren't getting met. That's the conversation that people don't want to have. Whose needs aren't getting met and why? If your needs aren't getting met, all that health science information is not going to do you very much good. And so at the end of the day, health is cooperation. It's collectivity. It is not an individual choice. This is exactly what Beatrice Adler Bolton talks about. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of her posts from Substack. The first one says, independence is a myth that capitalism sells to shame interdependence, a branding exercise. Disabled and sick people show that life is collective, and instead of reflecting that, the political economy punishes us for needing what everyone needs. I get so turned off, frustrated by people regarding these conversations, whether we're talking about beauty standards, whether we're talking about racism, whether we're talking about transphobia, homophobia, or whether we're talking about fat phobia. I get so tired of people talking about this as a morality idea, as a basic kindness versus meanness idea. Not because there's no validity to that, but because it fundamentally misses what the point of morality is. Morality is just efficacy. Morality is efficacy. Morality is figuring out what's best down the line for yourself and everybody else. That's why, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. People don't say that because they're going to hammer you. Well, maybe they will. People don't say that logically because they're going to hammer you for being mean. People say that because it's a good way to live your life and avoid as many problems as you can avoid and create as many advantages for yourself as you can create. I can't tell you how many times I and people that I know, and I'm sure many of you in the chat, have been able to look at experiences in your own life where you're like, wow, because I was cool with certain people and I was nice to them, that ended up paying off in the end. Even if it wasn't something that they did for me, it created a better situation. It made my life easier to just have peace and nice interactions with this other person, or to just make them happier. That's what morality is. Morality is efficacy. You are making your life worse by clinging on to these ideas of superiority and inferiority, clinging on to these ideas of independence, clinging on to these ideas of agency being the only thing that you should ever think about. Yes, we as humans have agency. Yes, we as humans individually can do a lot of amazing things. But for one, almost certainly they won't happen if you don't have your needs met. Absolutely certainly they won't happen if you don't have your needs met. Look at the dude weightlifting in Gaza, right? Try as he might, he cannot make a proper protein supply appear when undergoing a famine. This is another thing that people have to realize. This is what I realized when I started learning about politics, was I was like, oh, so this idea that life is fair, or that if I work hard and if I'm a good person, things will work out for me materially, that's a lie. Most things are out of my control. That's what politics teaches you, right? And so morality then teaches you, well, since most things are out of my control, why don't I work with what I can control to try to make my situation as easy, advantageous, and beneficial as possible? And that means creating a good group dynamic, avoiding unnecessary conflict, etc., etc. But people just treat it as like, oh, it's cancel culture. Oh, you just want to dunk on people. Oh, you just want to hate people. No, I've been in great shape and in horrible shape. Being in shape is superior. But do you see what the problem is? Because nobody ever said you shouldn't get in shape. But they do this over and over again, and I promise you there are more chat messages like this, and there will be comments like this. Everything that I said in this video will get completely ignored, and people will only say, you're saying getting in shape isn't worth it? That's all they want to see. Why? Because it is too hard to accept the fact that most shit is out of your control. It's too hard. It's too hard. It's too hard to accept the fact that ultimately, just because you invested in something that was beneficial to you does not mean it's superior or inferior, and does not mean that your needs got met. People don't want to accept that. So people always just shadowbox. They shadowbox. And this is what creates fascism. This is what my point is ultimately, and what the point is of what Beatrice Adler Bolton is saying, and what Crutches and Spice Imani Barbarin is saying. This creates fascism because you want to hold hard on to superiority. You want to hold hard on to better people. Better people. You want to hold on to, I'm a better person. You want to hold so hard on to that. And you don't want to accept that you can't control everything. And so what do fascists do? They throw a gigantic tantrum, and they try to seize as much as possible, and they kill as much as possible to get at a sense of control that they'll ultimately never have. Fascists never achieve their objectives. They never achieve their bottom line objectives. They never do. They just do all this damage in pursuit of a goal that is ultimately feckless and impossible. We're going to make America great again. What are you talking about? We're going to get the immigrants out and put America first. Really? Even if you implemented a rigid immigration plan, which you're trying to do, and do all this tough talk and all this fear creation, you really think you're going to get the immigrants out of the country? You got certain people that look like chiseled gods that are deeply unhealthy, that work out every day, and because of how much they work out, often sustain really bad injuries, often have to take supplements that are ultimately damaging to their body, or, substances that are ultimately damaging for their body, more clearly. And it doesn't address the root causes of the things that might be making their lives worse a lot of the time. Because you work out all this time and then you're still sad, right? Like that is so often the case. So you don't need people to tell you getting in shape is good, because getting in shape is relative, and nobody needs to tell you to do as best as you can for your own health. Nobody needs to tell you that. What people are so scared to talk about is why. Why are people unable to meet all of their health needs in 99% of cases of humanity? Why are so many people forced to have certain health problems against their will based off of things they can't control? Why? And what do we do with that? And fascism, because it takes from all that momentum that we have from the joking and put it away and actually this is better and obviously this is better and let's make fun of people who don't see that this is better. We're going to do all that. Okay, fascism takes that momentum and is like, so we're just going to kill disabled people. We're just going to cut all social services for disabled people. So Zoe Phillips is like a troll, frankly, because it's just like you're not even answering. You're shadow boxing. Who are you talking to? Who said athletes are the only people who need to be in shape? Who said that? Go take that shit to some fucking stream that isn't gonna care that you literally don't listen to anything being said. Go take that shit over there. And that's the end of the stream, actually, because I have to go now. But I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I'm really looking forward to seeing just how wonderful the discourse will be about this. I really am going to enjoy how much people are just going to keep coping and missing the point entirely.